Ladies and gentlemen, we are so excited to have Shaya Hecht, LCSW, in the podcast room. It's such an honor and privilege to have a celebrity therapist in the building, really.
Celebrity.
You're not only a therapist, but you have so many other specialties, which we're going to get into. But how are you feeling today?
Wow. First of all, I never knew I was a celebrity, so thank you. I will always pin it back on Avi.
Look at that.
But I'm feeling a little under the weather, so I'm sorry about that. But we push through no matter what, you know?
We hope you feel better. That's such a typical therapist word to say. We push through, no matter what. I see that with many therapists. It's about just going through it. It's interesting because we're all about telling other people to take care of themselves, but a lot of the times we need to also take care of ourselves, and we're gonna actually talk about that today as well. Self-care for therapists.
That's great because I'm gonna do a terrible job at that conversation, but I'll definitely give it a shot.
So today's topic, I wanted to talk to you about finding ourself in therapy or through the process of therapy. What are your thoughts about that?
Wow. That's a massive question, and one that I'm already feeling tension in my body just thinking about. But I think, like, for me, it's an ongoing journey. I don't even know if I have a perfect answer that says, wow, here's when I found myself. It's like a funny moment. Like, where do you find that moment? I think it's just something that evolves and evolves and evolves and continues to evolve. I'm definitely a way different person than I was even a few weeks ago in many ways. So I think it's just a journey. You just keep going, and more of yourself emerges, and you're kind of like surprised. Wow, I have that capacity. That's so cool.
Yeah.
And it just develops and it grows and it expands. And I think people surprise themselves throughout.
Something about you, your delivery, how you share information with the community. For those, by the way, who are not following Shaya, you definitely have to go check out his page. The way you just connect with others is so unique and so special. Did you always want to be a therapist?
It's so funny that you're saying that. I don't view myself this way. It's so interesting. I mean, I view myself as a connector, for sure. But I don't recognize it as something that's unique. I don't know why. It's so interesting. But when you ask me, do I always want to be a therapist? I wasn't always this way, I don't think. Like, I've gotten way humbler over the last bunch of years. I was pretty, well, whatever. I don't know what adjectives to use, and I'm going to try to be nice to myself. But I definitely have become way humbler through therapy. I did not realize what therapy exactly was. The cliche, like, oh, I just want to help people. It's so nice, People like to talk to me. They tell me their problems. And, I think a lot of therapists go through that, phase before they go to school, where people mention to them, wow, you're great to talk to or something like that. So I for sure went through something like that. And I went to school and I'm like, oh, I could help people. And then, like, in the classroom, it all sounds cool in theory. And then you get into a therapy room and it's like, whoa. Yeah. Is this what I signed up for, right? And that was hard, and it's still hard. It's still very hard, actually. But that process humbles you in many ways. So.
For sure. There's something about, I think even the word empathy, just connecting with people where they're at, hearing their story, hearing their journey. There's definitely a component to it that humbles a person, because it's interesting when you said that. It kind of resonated with me as well. I think throughout the process of being a therapist, where I was and where I'm now, it for sure changed me.
Yeah.
I'm curious to ask you, is this because you worked with clients, or is it just because of your own therapy possibly that you went through?
Right. So it's actually interesting because it didn't humble me until maybe, I don't know how many years ago. Like, I've been doing this for a while, right? Over a decade. And I think the certain types of therapy that I was doing, or certain clients that I maybe wanted to work with at the time, I was in that direction for a reason, and it took a while to, like, process maybe, or to understand why I'm doing these things. So now, when I shifted, which maybe we can get into how that happened, but that's where the humbling started. Like, meaning, many therapists can do this work and not become humbled by the work. It takes a certain opening of yourself, honesty with yourself, and looking inside yourself of, like, what's happening here with me, for me, with this client. There's something going on here. do I want to discover what that is, or do I want to just like shut that down and help the client,
Yeah,
in the name of therapy?
for sure.
So it took me a while to give myself permission to be like, hey, what's going on here? Maybe I should talk to someone about this, or maybe think about this for a little bit. And through that process was like, whoa, that was eye-opening
Yeah.
for me. Yeah.
For people who are not familiar with this, and I oftentimes share this with my clients, is that even though we're therapists, many therapists have therapists.
Mm-hmm.
And this is my personal opinion. I think all therapists should have therapists
Right.
because I agree with you. When we work with people, sometimes certain things unlock within us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so important to check that and
Yeah.
see what is that. Because I agree that it's so important. One of the most important key ingredients in therapy is openness, honesty, and transparency with the people that we work with. Vice versa. It goes,
Mhm.
we
Mhm.
really like when clients are open with us. They share even the most sometimes uncomfortable things that come up. There's no judgment there because this is our body sending a message, letting us know that, hey, this is an alarm. Let's take a look at this. What does this really mean? What's the deeper meaning behind that?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the work that you do. I know you have an incredible practice that you've built, so tell us about that.
Okay. So my practice has been through a journey of its own. As probably the theme of what you're going to hear is all about me journeying. I hope that's interesting to somebody. But basically, I started off treating like anxiety, OCD, some mood, like depression and stuff like that. Very much like CBT grounded for quite some time. And then things started to evolve. I was also doing family crisis, like, adolescents acting out and parents not understanding what's going on. And that's really complex, actually. That family system stuff is very complicated. And really trying to understand what's underneath here, who needs help, how to help them.
Mm-hmm.
And then transitioned into more complex trauma, which is what I'm doing now. But we still do all the other things because I do have a group practice now, which we evolved into. What was your original question?
So if you can share with us your practice,
Okay.
and I know you were
What
saying
we
you
do.
have the group practice now, so you have different therapists working under you?
Yeah. So we have a bunch of therapists, hopefully growing it even more, hopefully. And probably another theme is that I keep going and going and going and going. I should probably stop at some point, but that's between me and my therapist to figure out.
No. The world needs
How we're doing
Shaya.
that. Right. So they're doing all that anxiety work and behavioral stuff and all of that. And I'm focusing on complex trauma and all wherever that takes us, which is a whole journey in and of itself. And, that's where a lot of the internal growth happened for me. Because when it comes to complex trauma, the wounds that the clients have are within relationships, right? So very often they're early relationships. And now when they're coming to the therapist, which is a relationship, there's so much pain and resistance that shows up just by default because that's where their wound is. So it's like a big challenge for me to learn how to navigate that and to be a safe, regulated, relational being so that they could heal because they need that corrective experience from me. And if I'm not worked out to some degree and they're triggering me left and right and I don't know what to do with that, they're just going to be re-traumatized and I don't want that responsibility. So that was a lot of work, self-work that I had to do, which really I owe to my clients who came in that way, even though I wasn't treating that, right? I was treating what I thought was something else. But underneath it all, really, what I found and discovered was complex trauma, which is no surprise because in the literature, you'll see that that's most therapy cases.
So give me an example of what a complex trauma case would look like.
Yeah. So it varies, right? Meaning in the way that it looks, but the theme that they all have that's a common denominator is an interpersonal trauma. Earlier, most often earlier in life. So it's an interpersonal trauma, whether that's sexual abuse, whether it's physical abuse, whether it's emotional neglect, which is harder to detect. And sometimes people don't even realize that they've been through something like that, right? So it could be something like that. So there's an attachment wound there. And they're coming to therapy with those attachment wounds. So again, the therapy mirrors, it's an authority figure, quote unquote, a therapist is authority, right? So they're coming in already with a challenge here.
Yeah.
You know, and I always say, and I teach trauma also. I don't know if we should get into this or not, but I'm a professor. So we teach about how like therapists in these cases are really guilty until proven innocent, right? When the client walks into that room, I'm guilty. And I didn't do anything, right? I'm just trying to be very compassionate and kind and nice. And they're coming in with that type of energy. And if I'm not worked out, then I'm going to get triggered big time. Probably isolate the client, blame them, tell them, well, if you don't trust me, I can't help you, or something like that. And it takes a lot of humility to be like, wait, this makes so much sense, right? I represent pain for them. I do. I'm a relationship. I'm an authority of sorts. And I have the potential to really hurt them in a huge way. That's so scary. So if I can work that through for myself, which isn't easy, then I'm regulated when they come in, and I expect that to come my way. Then we can co-regulate, and they could heal, which is co-regulation is what they were missing when they were young, right? Because we regulate and we learn trust. How do we learn trust? Through our early relationships. But they have wounds there. So they don't learn to trust, and they haven't had a co-regulation. And many times it's not their parents' fault necessarily. Parents could be very stressed out or things like that. So, you know, like when you pick up a baby when they're really young and you just pick them up and they're just soothed, right? Because if I'm regulated and I'm calm, then they're going to mirror my nervous system and they'll calm them. But if I'm stressed and I pick up that baby, they're not calming down. They'll just scream, right? So if I'm stressed as the therapist, they're going to pick that up, right?
100%.
And they're going to be distressed. And if I am really overwhelmed and I start to isolate them, they're re-traumatized, right?
Yeah.
And now not only do they have to work through their own trauma from their history, now they got to work through the trauma with their therapist. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't want to deal with that.
It's definitely a lot to unpack there. And there's this interesting thing on Instagram. They have this like anonymous questions type of way of connecting with the followers, right?
Yeah.
So multiple times I asked my audience, the people who follow my page, I said, you know, share something anonymous with me. And sometimes some people shared some really uncomfortable things with their therapist. Like they were with a therapist and the session didn't work out as they thought it would, or it was a bad experience. And for me, as someone in the field, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry that you experienced this. Because unfortunately, there are some, like in all professions, there are some who are not the best, who are not doing the ethical or the right thing. And when you were talking about, we have to, as a therapist, also work on our own stuff in order to kind of give from a full vessel. Absolutely, I agree. Now, you were talking about your practice, and you have other therapists in your practice, and I'm sure they had to get vetted, right? So, as someone who hires therapists to work in their practice, what is a quality that you look for?
I love this question, Avi. This is awesome. So to tell you the truth, I've been thinking about I had been thinking about expanding this practice for a while, and I was so nervous too because of this dilemma. Like, you know, I like the way I practice, obviously, right? And like, how do I get someone similar to me, and I have to like let go because they're going to be different than me. But like, how do I know that they're safe? How do I know that they're going to be okay? And it was very scary to me because I have heard those same stories that you've heard about real pain within therapy. So I pushed it off for so long. And then like an amazing therapist, I don't know if I should mention her by name, so I'll just leave it out, was like, she was trying to send me cases and I just couldn't see them because I was full. She's like, why don't you have associates? Why don't you have associates? Why don't you have associates? I'm like, I'm so scared to hire someone. It's crazy. And she comforted me through that and explained to me what to do. And I got some good advice from her. And basically, so I speak to a certain somebody who knows people, a certain therapist who does a lot of teaching, so knows a lot of students. And I say, who's going to be that therapist in like a bunch of years? And there's a certain thing about therapists, like there's certain things I can teach and certain things I cannot teach. And if someone's a connector naturally, and when I'm like interviewing them, I just try to imagine myself like, do I want to be their client? What would it be like for me to be their client? just from their personality and like their energy, you know? And if it's like this like connector that's warm and just like, I just want more, you know? I just want more, that I can't teach. I can't teach someone that.
The humanity
yeah,
piece.
that humanity, that connect, that relational, I don't know what the word is, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
It's that it factor.
It's just it, right, exactly. Everything else I could teach, like the clinical stuff and the technique and modality and whatever, supervision, that's fine. But if they don't have that basic, then I can't. So as long as they have that basic thing for me, that's tremendous. And the rest I could teach. That's what I would say. But obviously I want someone who's somewhat experienced to some degree, but not too ahead of themselves where they're not like open to learning, so much.
So what's the name of your practice?
So funny question, because we recently transitioned. So it was under my name before. Now it's called HIP Counseling Center. It's H.I.P. I think. It's an abbreviation. And it stands for Humanly Is Possible. And in whatever branding I'm supposed to be doing, it should have an impossible crossed out. So humanly impossible is crossed out to go humanly is possible. Probably you'll notice a theme through my talking or things you've seen from me. I'm really into like trying to reduce this shame factor here. I think there's so much shame that we humans carry around. And I think we think that we can't be human. Human is just impossible. And it's so not, right? We can totally make humanly possible. So that's my goal.
Before this recording started, I was talking to somebody about therapy. And I actually wrote this down because I asked them, I said, do you think everyone needs therapy? And they took a moment to think about this. And they said, some people can be repulsed by it.
Wow.
And it took me back for a second. I said, and in my mind, I'm like, wow, that's a pretty strong word. And I asked this person, I said, repulsed by it, that, where is that coming from? And he said, some people may feel nothing's wrong with me. I'm not crazy. Why do I don't have to get fixed? Why do I have to go to therapy? Right. So what's your take on therapy? Do you think everyone needs therapy?
So Avi, something coming up for me here, right? What's with the word repulsed, right? Like there's a reaction from this person clearly, right? Because if something's just not for me, it's just not for me. I don't have to be repulsed by it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't know. Some people love like roller coasters. That's not my chill. So it's just not for me. I'm not like repulsed by it. I don't think it's a harmful thing. I could see why it could work for other people. Like to be repulsed by therapy, to me, is just, there's so much defense going on or something. There's something going on there. Like, why are you repulsed? Do you even know what therapy is? Have you experienced therapy? It's hard for me to even describe what therapy is. It really is. And I'm a therapist. Like to put words to it is so minimizing. It's so not capturing the energy that therapy is. So I don't know why someone would be repulsed other than they're scared. I have a lot of compassion for people that have that, because there's something scary about therapy, and therapy is scary. It just is, right? It's so like just shedding, your defenses and being your vulnerable self and like risking that and being so exposed and wondering like, am I still going to be accepted and loved and cared about? That's really difficult, really scary.
So definitely I can see why a client would feel very comfortable knowing that a therapist sees them in that kind of light, knowing that, hey, we know that this can be very uncomfortable, sitting there talking to a stranger because you just met. So for someone who has never had any experience going into therapy, talking with a therapist, what would that look like for someone? How does one get started? How does somebody start that connection? What questions do they ask? The basics.
Yeah. I love this question. I've had a dream for such a long time to like literally make this a focus of my media or like podcasting or something, to just talk about the process, and to literally invite guests who have been through this process and like are doing amazing, to be the voice of this. Because like it's so easy for from my side of the couch to be like, hey, here's the process. You can do this, right? And I'm on the other side of the couch too, but I'm saying I'm the therapist in this conversation, right? So to have someone who's really been through that to express this, I think would be way better than me. So I'm just putting that out there before I answer your question, right? But I think your question was about what is that like, that phone call or that shame. So on the one hand, it's easy for me to say, right, that the therapist is going to be non-judgmental and you're going to be okay and we're going to get through this. But like you mentioned, there have been really unsafe therapists that shouldn't be practicing. And unfortunately, they are. So what do you do with that, right? And I guess that's what people are afraid of. Now, I would like to believe that for the most part, therapists are safe. I hope that's true, right? So that's number one. But number two is to give ourselves permission to really take some risk. It's going to take risk. It's inherent because you can't learn how to trust without taking a risk. There's no such thing. If I know something is safe, then I just know it. I don't have to trust it. I just know. But this is a dance. This is hard. This is like taking that risk, but obviously take it slow and take it small. So I don't know if you should call a random therapist necessarily who you never heard of, right? And you're just like, hey, should I come for therapy? I don't know about that, right? I think maybe find out, do some research. What's their style like? You know, if they have pages online or they have videos, you can really get a sense. If someone would watch your videos, for example, they know they're safe. No, I'm serious. There's a certain just beautiful compassion, right? And stuff like that. That's so clear. It's so clear that you love what you do, that you're just holding just an amazingly beautiful, calming environment for them. And they would know that. And now when they call you, it's like a different phone call because they're familiar with you. The problem is there's so much shame that sometimes people, I would say like ask your friends, right? That's what I would do. I would be like, hey guys, who should I go to, right? But people are so ashamed to do something like that. You know, to ask a friend. But friends are, to me, a great way to find out, or family, because they've been through certain therapists, right? But there are some like online places where you could really just like get a sense of what somebody's like and take it slow. Don't walk in there being like, here's my life story. You know what I'm saying? You can go in there and say, this is super hard for me. And stop right there. That sentence should be enough for the therapist to really understand what's happening there and to help you through that process. So to me, the burden of responsibility is not on the client to find that safety. Right. It's on the therapist. So if people knew that they don't have to open up in therapy.
Yeah. Oftentimes, a skilled therapist, I agree with you, give some, and I tell this oftentimes to my clients, like, let me do my work too. You know, you don't have to come in here. A lot of the times clients feel this pressure of having to come in, knowing what to say, knowing the right things to say. And it's like, that's...
Right, because there's this cliche thing that people say, like some supervisors will tell like budding therapists, like, you can't work harder than your clients. Ever hear that before?
I have.
The client has to, right?
Yeah.
I hear where they're coming from, but that's not really so accurate. I work really hard, right? And sometimes way harder than my clients because they don't necessarily know what they need and they don't know how to be safe within this relationship, especially if they've been through very unsafe relationships. So I'm the one working super hard to make this safe, right? So if a client would come into me and say, hey, I know that therapy is like a thing and I've heard about it. I don't know why this is going to help me, but like I'm super scared. I'm like, let's do this. You know, I'm like, let's go. Right. And I help them through that and hold them through that process. That's all they need. Right. I think that there's like a pressure, and there are certain therapists, maybe the way they're trained, right, to put the responsibility on the client. And they sit there and go, well, until you're ready to speak, I can't help you. And to me, that's just very problematic.
So as you were speaking, I had such a big smile on my face because as you're talking, the thoughts are coming up in my mind of, oh my God, I'm normal. Oh my God, I'm normal, right? Because I have heard that in the past that, you know, you can't work harder than your clients. And I also see where they're coming from. But at the same time, a lot of the times I have to really do my own work before the session to make sure that I have the proper tools to be able to guide them wherever they're trying to go. And without that, and I talk to potential clients whenever they call and trying to find out about the way I work and how therapy works. And I say, my style is a solution focused therapist, which means, we try to figure out what your goals are and help you get there, right? And not only the goals, but what the process may look like, right? A lot of the times people, this is what I hear, and I would love to hear your thoughts about this. People say, I want to go to therapy, but I also don't want to waste time. I don't want you to just ask me about my day and how I'm doing. I want to leave knowing that I'm things are changing, things are looking up. You're smiling.
Yeah, because I'm thinking of certain clients, they come in on the first session like that. Like I'm thinking of someone in particular.
Yeah.
Like it's so fun because like to look back and reflect on how they come in. So there was a client who came in and was like, by the way, if I don't leave here with something practical, I'm never coming back here ever again. Right? And thinking back, like if this was 10 years ago, I would be in panic mode. 12 years ago, whatever, I'd just be, oh no. Right. They better walk out of here with something, Yeah. And now I'm just like, wow, you really need something practical, right? Let's try to understand that. And I say, but before we start, I can't guarantee you're going to get something practical. So if you don't want to continue right now, no problem. That's okay. I'll tell you what we can do, right? And we can understand why you need something practical. And maybe I could give you something practical. I don't know.
Oh my gosh, you sound like such a therapist.
Right? I'm such a therapist, yeah. And guess what? We're a couple years later now. And 100%. They're doing amazing.
Because interestingly, that in itself is the work. Yeah, when someone comes in.
Well, they need something practical because they're scared of this relationship.
Right.
I sensed that. I knew a little bit about them, right? They were scared to just be themselves. They couldn't just come in and say, here's me.
Right.
Embrace me. That's terrifying. No one's ever done that for them.
Yeah.
So it's not safe. So they're coming in saying, I need a skill. I need a tool. I need, that's not what they needed that. And I do give them that. And of course, and there's a major place for that. At the same time, what they really needed was someone to say, oh, I see you. I see what you're struggling with here.
Yeah.
And I accept you for it. And they got that. And that's really where the healing allowed itself to happen so that the skills can actually be implemented. If I just gave them a skill and they didn't think I cared about them, I don't know how far that would go.
100%. And that is the human piece that I was talking about, And in there, by the way, that was what that client needed to just know that you on your own are okay. Exactly. So being able to kind of see the differences, because oftentimes clients will say, this is what I'm coming in for therapy for. And then once you do the work and you start talking, you start to unravel a lot of the other things that are underneath the surface.
Yeah. And do we have permission for that, right? That's why we say it's a journey, right? Because who knows what's going to show up at that time? Like, I don't know, any journey you take, there's going to be a pothole, there's going to be a bump in the road, there's going to be beautiful flowers. There's so much that goes into that, right? But some people don't want to say, I'm going on a journey. They go, I'm at the destination. Here, this is the finish line. Now, I'm leaving at the finish line. I don't know, we're just getting started.
Right. Yeah. So I said this before. Therapy isn't the destination; it's the journey, right? Yeah. So allowing yourself to be in that space of self-discovery and helping the client through that. I know you said the word trust before. So trust and safety. So share a little bit about how that plays a role, especially in the first session.
Yeah. It's like so hard for me to identify specific, I don't know what the word is, tangible things to make trust a thing. But for me, I have to work on this actually. I'm going to get vulnerable now. I tend to talk a lot, right? And it's not so helpful sometimes, right? Because you're missing if you're not taking everything in. So what I do is I don't even ask them, why are you here today? I know it's like weird. I'm just like, hey, what's up? We're going to get to know each other a little bit. How's that feeling for you now? Just coming in today. What's up? Right? So we do that, and I'm at a safe distance, I hope, right? From the client, they can see the door. They can exit if they need it, right? And especially for someone who's been through pain in relationships, their nervous system's calculating my room. How much space is there between me and the therapist? How far is the exit? Can I get out if I need to? And that's something that I take very seriously. And I know that they might be coming in that way and that's okay. And we just go there. So for me, safety is about me being regulated. That's it. Doesn't mean that a client never dysregulates me internally. Of course I do. And I make mistakes. But my guarantee, I think I put a post out about this once. Like, at the end of the day, why am I different than the people who have hurt them? What's different about me? I'm human just like them. I can mess up just like those people can. I'm vulnerable the same way they are. But my guarantee that I hope is that I will give an opportunity to apologize and to work through anything that's happened and take ownership over it and work to repair that relationship if they'll give me that opportunity. They don't owe me that, right? But I want them to know that that's something real. To guarantee them that they're never going to get hurt by me is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. Unintentional. Of course I don't want to hurt them.
Yeah.
But there's a way sometimes that I sit that someone might be like, whoa, what just happened? What's going on for you? And I'm like, wow, they're so hyper focused on me because their nervous system is so scared that every move I make, or even if there's a change in my office, it gets noticed. Mm-hmm. So I try to keep everything very consistent.
Yeah.
Right? I think that brings safety also. Like, I try to be the same type of guy, whether I'm going through a crisis in my life, right? Whether I got a child in the hospital or whatever, I try to come in, and it really takes a lot of work to just come in the same way as much as I can. Obviously, I'm human. And my room looks the same. If there's even a change coming up in my room, I even try to give them a heads up. Like, I'm getting a new couch, right? It sounds so stupid in a certain way, but it's so not. It's very meaningful to people to know, because it's their space, really. If you think about it, like, whose space is this, right? I'm inviting them into my space, I guess, in a sense, but in a huge sense, they're inviting me into their space. But like, they're coming to my office, but it's not, but the space is a shared space. So like, I'm making a change. Like, what's going on here? Like which room am I in today? So just like I try to be very open that way. And I think people are scared, therapists are scared to be like just human, regular, like, yeah, I got a new couch. Like, why'd you pick this couch? Well, why are you asking me that question? Let's analyze that for a minute. I'm just like, I got a new couch because the other one was uncomfortable. I don't know. Right? Let's just be regular for a few minutes. It's going to be okay. And I think that people really appreciate that. And obviously, you have to be careful on how much, what you say and how you say. But like, it's not dangerous to tell someone why you bought a new couch, I think, for the most part. And not everything has to be therapized, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up a couch because I actually asked my Instagram also. I said, "Hey guys, I'm thinking about getting a new couch. What are your thoughts?"
There you go.
We ended up getting, we ended up figuring out what couch to get. So we got the couch, we put it in, and I set up my whole office from my perspective of where I sit in the room. So I set it up and it looked great. I loved how it looked. And I said, okay, let me just now sit on the couch and see what the client sees. And as soon as I sat there, I'm like, wait, I don't like this. There's a white wall there, and there needs to be something there, and then this has to be adjusted. This has to be moved. This looks weird. This is uncomfortable. And it's so interesting that you said, and I changed it according to what now the client sees. And I agree with you that even though this is our office, this is their space.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that when they come in, they have all the things. I'm saying for me, and based on what I'm hearing from you, it sounds like that's kind of what you do. How it can make them comfortable, and I love that piece that you said. You'll give them a heads up of, hey, I'm gonna get a new couch, just so when they come in next time,
they're prepared.
They're prepared.
Yeah, and also they know that they can ask me about new things in my office. Like, I think that people have been through therapies before where that's like, not an okay. Like boundaries, that's another thing. Like boundaries, a big topic, Like, who's responsible for boundaries, right? So clients are, I don't know if you see my Q&A, but like I used to do this Q&A all the time, and I haven't been able to do it so much. But a lot of the questions are about like things that people are afraid to say to their therapist. Like, these are the things that they're asking me. I'm just like, have you brought that up to your therapist? And have you brought that up to your therapist? I almost sound like a broken record, but they're really scared to bring certain things up to their therapist. Even like, I want to ask you about this new couch. Now, for that client, it's triggering something in them. It's hard for them to embrace that. But they're afraid to say like, hey, why'd you get a new couch? Because now what about boundaries? I'm asking him something personal. Like, what's going on here? For me, I let them know that I'm in charge of boundaries, right? I'm in charge of like maintaining them, creating them, and all of that. Your job is to just go with that, right? And if you continuously try to break down my boundaries, we're gonna have to talk about that, right? But the onus of responsibility on boundaries, I think, is on the therapist to create and maintain and take charge of, right? So they can ask me anything they want, and I get to decide if I want to answer or not, right?
Yeah.
That's okay, right? They can ask me anything they want, as far as I'm concerned. So I think that's also helps with safety because it's sort of like I'll steer you where we need to go. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you do you just be you, and I'll help you with therapeutically just what's appropriate, how to do this, how to navigate this. And I think that's just takes a lot of pressure off of someone, and it helps develop trust because, okay, you got this. I don't have to worry about that. I could just be me. You know, there's a certain I think because in other relationships they've been hurt by asking a question like that. Now I understand why they're asking a question like that. They want to get to know me. They don't know me. Therapy is such a complicated relationship. Who am I? I'm a stranger to them. They don't know anything about my life. They're coming in and just they should embrace this relationship because I have a certificate or a degree or a license of some sort. Super tough. I had to negotiate that. So they're struggling. So, okay, so let's struggle through it together, but I'll take responsibility. You ask me whatever you want. We'll figure it out.
It almost sounds like you're human first, therapist second.
Oh, you know that's my tagline, by the way?
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, on my platform. Okay, clarity.
That is
human
really...
first, therapist second.
That's
exactly
really
exactly
kind of the message that really comes across.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
What does that mean to you?
Yeah. It's so important to me. And again, this came up in the last few years because I think when the therapies aren't going well, and I've had a lot of clients who come when other therapies didn't go well, it's because the therapist was scared to be human. I really think so. Like they're trained well and they're clinically sound, but they're not allowing themselves to just be. They're like playing role of like therapist or the smartest one here or this goes against my training and I have to be so rigid right now. And like I'm not saying this is easy. This is really hard to know how much of yourself to bring in and stuff like that. And it definitely is still developing for me. But when I just gave myself permission, because I became more comfortable with me, which take a very long time, now I could just be me. Like, it's okay. I'm okay with me. So now you could see this version of me, and I don't have to be that smart, and I don't have to be smarter than you. In fact, most of my clients are much smarter than I am, and that's okay. You know what? That's okay because we're just gonna relate. That's it.
This is a personal question I have because this is something that I was struggling for some time with. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
So, I have a social media platform: Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all of that, right?
Wow.
And a lot of the times, people want to see my personal life, right? Yeah. My family, my things that I do in my personal life, and a part of me really wants to show them everything, right? Yeah. Because I genuinely love the human connection. Yeah. But at the same time, I have to remember, why am I here? What should I post? What should I not post? Yeah. And sometimes I have to hold back because more for them, not for me. I want to share. Yeah. But it's about somebody actually just shared an anonymous question, and I didn't have a chance to respond yet. They said, I wish I would have your life. Yeah. And I wanted to say, oh, buddy, pull up a chair. Let me just tell you, kind of the stories that I have that would, you would be very surprised, right? And a part of me is like, should I share? Should I not share? Do I share pictures of my family or do I not? And some therapists do, and some therapists don't. What's your take on this?
So I struggle with this too. Actually, when I started on Instagram, people were pushing me to go on there. People need you. So first of all, I thought Instagram's like this place where people just numb out. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I don't want to be a part of that, And then I saw these people are just amazing, craving just to be heard and seen and heal. And I'm sure there's plenty of numbing and all that other stuff going on there, but they're really people are thirsting for just someone to get them, So when I did this Q&A in the beginning, people were like, are you married? How many kids do you have? This and that and that. And when I started Instagram, I had a goal. I'm like, this is not for my practice. I'm full. I only started. I'm full. This is to just be me, So I don't have any pressure. I need a client. I need to impress. I need this. I need that. None of that. I don't want any of that in my way. So I only joined when I did not need clients. And this is me. And do this for Klal Yisrael, you know? And like...
Giving back.
Yeah. I have a huge passion for that. We'll get into that more. But so when I joined, when they started asking me these questions, I'm like, wait, this is very Instagrammy now. You need to know my lifestyle. I need to like start filming myself, you know, on vacations and this and that. Like, no. But really, that's not what, right? I mean, maybe there's a part of them that's just, you know, naturally curious, but really it's about what I've learned, actually, because I avoided answering questions like that. Like, I said right away, I didn't answer for a long time, and they were getting angry. I was getting anonymous messages like, you're hiding something. You never answer whether you're married or not. You're hiding something. And I understand where that's coming from, right? Because the mistrust, like we spoke about before, of like, can I really trust you? What are you hiding from me? And that tension happens in therapy too. So I, for a while, didn't answer a question like that, you know? And then like, I was just like, I really thought about it. I spoke to a few people just to like, and I spoke to those people actually. I said, can you please follow up with me and ask me what's behind your question? Because I really want to get this Instagram world and like, what's going on for you guys, you know? And it was really just about, we just want to know who you are. Now, obviously, I'm definitely not showing them my house and my family, whatever, but that was very important to them to know, am I married? Do I have children? Just, I don't know. It was very important to them. So I just answer very quickly, yes, I am married. Yes, I have children. That's it. Now, someone asked me last night, how many children do you have? Okay. You know what I'm saying? We don't need to get into like all these details here, right? I don't know what the benefit would be, but if they would share it with me, I might share it with them individually, but I don't need to broadcast on, you know, here's my whole life, you know? So that's hard for me. And in therapy too, that's hard. But here's the thing, Avi, like you were saying how like they think we have this perfect life because we have to be this sort of perfect person for them. The same way when we're really young, our parents are like our everything, you know? Like when you're like a little 2-year-old, like everything's your parents, hopefully, to some degree, right? And there's like this, they're like Superman, like your dad's Superman, your mom's just like amazing, right? And then like we go through that phase like of infatuation with like our parents. Then obviously when we become teens, it's like game over, right? But like the same thing happens in therapy because we have to create this like almost perfect, safe spot, which means it's really all about the client and has nothing to do with my needs. That's weird. What kind of relationship has that? Your friends is always a mutual need. Even with your parents, their stuff gets in the way, right? And here we are, the therapist, we spoke about how we have to be so worked out and so regulated and all about the client. It's very weird. They have a hard time relating to that. So they question it. Who are you? Like, what are you about? What's going on? And sometimes the answer is we can be curious, right? People have a hard time sitting with that unknown and in that space because is it safe? But over time, what I find is not getting dysregulated from the question and just allowing that question to be like, yeah, you really want to know this about me. Tell me more about that. To really just hold that spot of curiosity and how hard it is that they don't know this about me and they don't know what all my issues are. Because if they knew that, it would get in the way of our therapy. But they definitely want, like they think, I have people who say, well, I go home to my messed up life and you're going to go home to your perfect life. How is that fair? I could tell them 40,000 times that my life isn't perfect. They're not going to believe me. Because they have this perfect version of me that they need to have. But I am also human. So I try to make my humanity like open in a certain way without pouring out my issues. But like, yeah, I make mistakes too. I might make mistakes with you, right? And let's talk about it. And we could bring it up and give me feedback. And that builds trust. So even though I'm not going to answer how many children I have, where do they go to school, which maybe for some clients I might, by the way, depending on what they need. Obviously, I have to focus on what they need. But they do know that I'm still human because it's clear. I came in sick today. I came in, I have a headache, right? Oh, yeah, it's hard. It's hard to find parking today. Yeah, it's so hard. Me too. I also couldn't park today. So there's certain ways that we can relate that they realize that I'm still human, so that perfection thing like comes down from it. They still, a part of them struggles with it, but without having to give all the detail, they could still sense that you're human too.
So I know this is a question actually that came up, I think on your page. If a client builds up certain feelings towards their therapist, right? And this is actually, I've heard this multiple times. So a lot of the times that clients can feel very uncomfortable with these feelings. Why am I feeling this? This is so odd. What's wrong with me, right? Should I hide them from my therapist? Should I tell my therapist? Or what do I do?
Yeah.
Maybe you can share a little bit actually what might be coming up for them.
Yeah. So it really depends on like their attachment styles, right? Oftentimes, this might come from an anxious type of attachment where like when they were young, their parents were inconsistent, like they were sort of reaching out for their support or emotional, connection. And the parents often weren't around or weren't available for that. So they're constantly seeking it out, and then feeling like they're being abandoned,
Mm-hmm.
So that trust is super hard. So what happens is like, as we're coming into therapy and now the therapist is like, we're starting to build this trust, but it's so hard to trust. I'm going to push you in this way and I'm going to act up in that way. And are you still going to be there for me?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if I text you, even though you told me not to text you, are you going to now dump me as a client? Right. Like there's going to be that testing, which makes so much sense because it's like being re-triggered, like all that stuff from when they were young, right, is showing up now in a certain way. So that transference, right, which is, I guess, what you're getting at, is so normal that they're going to have these type of feelings towards the therapist because there is this like caregiving role that a therapist plays. So they're going to test all of that, and feelings will come up. But like we said before, the wounds happened in a relationship, and the scene, and this adult therapy relationship is the healing container for the relational wounds that happen. So whatever's coming up for the client is supposed to come up because it's going to mirror oftentimes the wounds that they've had. So whatever they're feeling, let's say they're feeling infatuated by their therapist, they're obsessed, they can't get enough, right? That makes tons of sense. Think of a baby, right? Think of a little infant baby who just wants and wants and wants more and wants more and wants more, and that's their need. So let's say that client had a rupture there. So they have that need now. Now they sense there's someone taking care of them, and they want more and they want more and they want more. And having a pushback is really hard. So they start to feel like shame that I want more. Why do I want more? I'm so needy. That word needy is terrible. Of course we're needy. We need people. How can we survive without needing people? So they feel like so much shame about the neediness. There's no shame in needing people. No shame in needing to be taken care of, needing to feel like I matter to someone. We all need to feel needy. Does that make any sense? We all need to be needy. We need to be needy, right?
The message definitely comes across. And as you're speaking, you have this way of just like acceptance and like, hey, I
it's so basic. It's like, to me, it's like, that's why when you point it out to me, it's like, I have to like remind myself that I guess I learned this along the way somewhere because it's just so obvious to me at this point. I guess just seeing clients so many times, so many different clients, and just internally my own things, just like the concept of being needed, mattering to someone is huge. But there's like shame and like, oh, why do I reach out to me? I'm so crazy. Like, it's so crazy. I have these feelings for my therapist. I'm so messed up. You're not messed up at all. You're just human. And what's wrong with being human? Humanly is possible, right? We can be human.
I think we should also put this as a subtitle. What's wrong with being human?
Yeah, what's wrong with it?
So, therapy, you described it beautifully, the first steps of it. What role do you feel the therapist has in the relationship and also with the success of the client making progress in therapy? Do you feel that the therapist has a role in that?
Yeah.
Their relationship with the client, and if that plays a part in the success rate?
Yeah. So I have the privilege to teach at Wurtzweiler School of Social Work for Starshner. Amazing program. And we just came off of a semester, so that's why we're here. But so I was teaching trauma this past semester. And you know something? I spoke about modalities at the end of the semester, all the way at the end, right? And a little bit, it was annoying to the students. Like, come on, like, we want to know how to treat them. And I wanted my class to sort of mirror my therapy model, I guess, or the way that I am in therapy. The modality to me is super important. It is. But it's so secondary to being a safe relational person who's not going to re-traumatize the client. Because I could give a modality that's very easy. That's super easy. That I can teach, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's easy for me. But how many therapists are trained in modalities and hurting people because they're not relating in a safe way, and they're re-traumatizing the clients because they're not slowing themselves down to be connecting safely, right? So, and the research shows this, by the way. I'm pretty sure, I don't know, don't quote me on this. Don't put this out there, what you're going to do. But 80%, I believe, it's around 80% of the healing in therapy is the relationship, right? So we're talking about 20%. Like the money that I spent to train, which is a lot of money, is for 20% of therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And Avi, even your exposure therapy, which is a huge skill to have, and a lot of training goes into that, right? If you weren't you, and you were just not relating so well, not connecting so well, and you're putting the spider in front of somebody, I don't know that they're going to feel so safe to be exposed to that, right? It's because, like, I sit across from me, I'm like, I want more of this. Like, let's go, right? It's because there's this connection, right? That's there that allows for them to trust you, or to try to trust you, to, okay, now you're going to put something scary in front of me. So in the same way, that's therapy, right? If we don't have this relationship, and you're not feeling safe, I could modality you all day long. You're going to get re-traumatized, more scared. I'm not tuning into you. You don't matter to me. It's more about just how smart I am and how much I could treat you.
What's interesting is, as you were speaking, we have live proof of what you're saying.
Oh, yeah?
Multiple times, on multiple occasions, we didn't practice this. I would do an exposure therapy with not a client, whether it's a somebody who wants to challenge themselves, right? Actually, with another therapist, with another person in the room, right? Who said, "Hey, let me try this." And the one main factor, common denominator that each one of them had was saying, "I trust you," and I also, by the sound of your voice and like your calmness and your way of just like just being calm and just chill. That's what made me do it.
So you're human first, psychotherapist second.
Well, don't worry. I'm not going to take your tagline. It's yours first.
It's true. But you live by that.
But
you don't even necessarily notice it, but that's what that is.
Throughout the years, and what's interesting is as you're talking, it's almost like I resonate so much with what you're saying that first year therapist, or I should say being in school as an intern, then first year therapist, and as the years go on, I can definitely see how the human connection becomes so much stronger, not therapist to client, but human to human. And honestly, this is I'm going to be vulnerable, but I get so much strength from seeing my clients go through their journey, and it almost like inspired. I'm inspired by so much of what they go through and how they handle it. And honestly, it's like from one human to another, it's like you give me the energy to be able to kind of go through my challenges, knowing like, hey, we're in this together, as the human race.
You know what's crazy to me? I walk, like, I have the opportunity to sit with people all day and night that are just so inspiring and courageous. Like, I would pay anything for that. You know what I'm saying? The way they've impacted my life to build my own capacity for courage. I could tell you crazy stories of like where it's for sure linked to my clients, where I got my own courage, right? When you tell a client, especially from complex trauma, that you inspire me, they don't believe a word I'm saying because the shame is so deep. I'm an inspiration. How could I be hurt so badly by people if I'm such an inspiration, right? They don't trust that, but I can't hold myself back from saying it because it's so true. And I want them to see themselves as an inspiration. I hope one day they'll see themselves as an inspiration because they are. I had a crazy opportunity. I hear something really wild. Like therapy is super hard, right? And I even had a question recently, like, why are therapists going on vacation? Like, what's so hard about like talking to people all day? I don't know if you saw this one. I was like, oh my gosh, like, I wish I could put into words how hard therapy is, right? Now, if any of my clients are watching this, it's okay. That's my problem. That's one of my issues, and I got to deal with that, right? They should keep coming. One of the hard parts of therapy for me, therapy is like so lonely because it's one-on-one. No one else is there. It's one-on-one. No colleagues, Everything that's going on in that room is private. I'm not allowed to tell anyone about it, right? And it's just, and anything going on, it's just like me. I carry that. So whether I'm doing really good work, okay, no one cares. Who am I going to share that with? Oh, I did great work. What would you do? Can't really tell you. I can't really capture that for you. This client was like this and like that. You can't put words to that. And if I'm doing really hard and I'm struggling, that's also like so unique to me. I'm the only one who knows what that's like, right? So that's really hard. And like, especially in private practice where you don't like have time to like talk to other people and you're like in your office all day. Like I hear people coming in and out in other offices. I don't even know who they are. I don't know which therapist is there that day. I don't even see them most of the time, right? So I had this crazy opportunity recently where one of my clients spoke to my class of MSW students. And like they offered it, like I would never ask or anything like that. And like what that was like for me to like just sit back and hear them talk about their journey, with previous therapists and then with me and what worked for them and whatever, just like someone got to see this, that was priceless. That was priceless.
I wish I would have been in that class.
That was amazing. I'm telling you, and we processed it with the class. We processed it with the client. It was the most incredible thing, And like my class asked this person, like, why'd you want to come speak to us? Like my class is like amazed by this person, right? Like, what a journey, crazy trauma. Why'd you want to come speak to us? You know what they said? Crazy. They said, I didn't have a voice my whole life. No one ever cared about me or what I have to say. For the first time in my life, someone's listening. And they're going to give me a platform to talk and scream out what I believe and who I am. Of course, I'm going to take them up on it. That's so healing. And that was their need. And that's why we did it, because it was for them, for their therapy and whatever. But for me, how soothing that was to my system, like, oh, I can never talk about this. And like, you guys get to see this in real life. Wow, that was priceless.
But just to hear them say that, I think that takes so much strength.
Yeah.
And oftentimes people feel like when they're vulnerable, it's weakness, but it's actually the opposite. It takes so much strength to be vulnerable and to feel okay and confident to say, you know what, I have a platform now for me to stand up and share my piece.
Yeah.
Because throughout my journey, I've learned that my words matter too.
Yeah.
So
that's huge.
Just through there, I can already see like the work that you've done for someone who thought they don't have a voice, and to kind of give them back that voice. That's huge. And, the topic of our conversation today is finding your voice, because I feel growing up oftentimes where our environment kind of shapes us. And it's like a double-edged sword, in many good ways, right? But also, unfortunately, in sometimes not such good ways. And sometimes we kind of have to hide parts of us because of what society said, like something so simple. Like, for example, putting pineapple on pizza.
Oh, I was just talking about this with someone last night.
Were you really?
You're kidding me.
Look at that. Right. So there's some people, and this is just an example, but happens to be, personally, I love pineapple on pizza. It tastes great. So
last night I was at a place and they had it on the menu. And I'm like, I always wanted to try this, because I was in a clinic, many years ago. And when we'd bring in pizza, like kosher pizza didn't have pineapple on it, like for forever, right? But the non-Jewish workers were like, how come you guys never order pineapple pizza? I don't understand. I'm like, pineapple on pizza? It's like, whoa, I never heard of such a thing, right? And then last night, I'm sitting in a place, and they have pizza with pineapple. I'm like, I'm totally trying this. But the other person's like, no, we're not trying this at all. I'm like, oh, man. But I'm really tempted. Is it good?
It is pretty good.
Nice.
Yeah, it is pretty good. So obviously, this is just an example, but if let's say this is perfect, right? Let's say there would be somebody in an office who says, hey, can we order pineapple pizza? And then someone would say, ew, that's disgusting. Why would you want that? In their mind, they can process it's like, oh, wait, is it disgusting? Is that weird, right?
Right.
And then if things like that happen multiple times, then in their mind, they may feel like, you know what, I'm weird. I will never again say that publicly. So there, again, going back to Instagram, there's this like new feature of like confessions, like some giving a platform for people to share a confession, right? And then we talk about
priest.
it. Yeah. Right. It's funny because someone said, are you a priest now? But something like that. So somebody can share. And when I did share, so many people texted me privately like, oh, thank God I'm not the only one who feels like this. Right. So when we hear other people, and it was anonymous, so people had an opportunity to just share, their experiences or confessions. So,
Yeah.
and when I shared it, people would say like, that's me
Yeah.
too.
Yep.
So in therapy, it's about giving back a voice, giving back their voice to clients.
Yeah.
So it's like you explained with this.
In many
person.
ways, therapy's, it's like, again, we're putting words to therapy, which is always so hard for me. Like, yes, that's true, but that doesn't capture it. You know, like there's
It
a part of me
minimizes
that's like, why are we putting words to that? You know, there's two parts of the brain, right? So there's the logical part, and it's much slower, right? And trauma happens on the other side, which is the experiential, like the senses and the pictures and the colors and the shapes and the sound. If I told you, Javi, I went on this vacation and there was this like beach and the sun was shining and it felt so good on me, right? And the water was so blue. How long did that just take me? Did I capture my experience? Not, yeah, somewhat. But if I showed you like a picture or a video, all your senses would be like, boom, in seconds like that, right? So like putting words to the experience of therapy, it's like, yeah, so they're going to get a voice. And like, what does that feel like? Like, what does that mean to have a voice? Like, there's so much imagery that you could conjure up, right? And it still wouldn't fully capture it. So it's so hard.
It is. And every person has their own experience in therapy. But, you know, there are sometimes, if it doesn't feel right in your gut.
Yeah, that stuff. Yeah, that
question
happens.
it.
Right. So here's the problem. Because these people have split off from themselves, like you said, so much because they weren't accepted for who they were. So oftentimes they've had like a new version of themselves that they think is acceptable. They don't even know anymore what's real, what feels right, what doesn't feel right. So they go into a therapy room and their alarm bells are going off. But their alarm bells go off even when there's no real threat, right? Think about that. Like someone who's been traumatized, their nervous system is constantly working. So they could be walking outside feeling there's a threat. And as you know, who says that's a perceived threat? It's not necessarily an accurate thing. So they now don't know if they can trust their own gut, right? But I agree with you. They do need to tune in to their gut. And I think that when they can express what they're feeling inside and just put it out there in the therapy room, even if they're doing it in a distant way or just bringing out just a little bit of it, their therapist should be able to soothe them through that process. Like, for example, if a therapist said, like, if a client said, I'm having trouble trusting you, that's a very big vulnerable thing to say, right? To a therapist. For me, that's a very normal thing for me as a therapist to hear from a client, right? But if they say that and I leave them feeling anxious, I hope they'll come back and tell me that, and I'll help them through that, and they'll see that we can regulate this thing and we can be okay. But I hope that in that conversation, I'm going to be able to help them just see internally that they're feeling calmer about it, right? And then they could say, hey, maybe this is okay.
Yeah.
And learn to trust.
So confidentiality in therapy. Okay. Let's talk about it for a minute. I know talking about safety, we want to be able to let our clients know whatever we talk about here stays here. But of course, there's pieces to that. What are your thoughts?
You mean like when we bypass confidentiality because there's a danger or something like that?
Well, how do you talk about confidentiality with a new client?
Yeah.
How does confidentiality work in therapy?
Right. This is so tricky, right? For the clients who are not trauma clients and they're coming for whatever, phobias or whatever. So yeah, we could just have a quick conversation, like, hey, this is confidential unless it's a danger to yourself or somebody else. And that makes a lot of sense. And like, it's over, I'll probably never talk about confidentiality ever again. For someone who's sworn to themselves that their secrets are going to go with them to the grave, that's how shameful they're feeling. You could tell that to them all day. It's not over. It's constant within the journey to tune in of, hey, do you have a fear that this is going to get out there in some way? And I will keep that in this room. But they have such a hard time because when they let it out to me, they just broadcasted it to the universe in a certain way. This is something that they were going to hold on to for their whole life. And it's really hard for them. So oftentimes after someone discloses even, an abuse or something's going to happen the next session within our relationship. Either they're not going to come, or they're going to come late, or they're going to push push me in some way because they're not steady anymore.
Mhm.
Our relationship just shifted. Am I really accepting of them? Did I now go tell somebody? Did I go tell my friends and laugh about what they've been through? They don't have trust that I'm going to do that for them. So guess what I don't do? I don't say, by the way, it was confidential. I do that. Of course I do, right? But what I also do is I tune into like, what's your experience now? Sharing that, hearing me say these words, how does that land on you and your body and your system and you? Because I said those words now, okay? Wash my hands from it.
Yeah.
This is something that they struggle with on a regular basis, trust in the relationship. This is just another thing that they don't know they can trust. So it's got to be ongoing.
This was something personal that was very difficult for me to handle. Well, I shouldn't say very difficult, but it was very sensitive. When you build trust with clients, especially with younger clients, let's say teens or children, and say, of course, you working on trust, and whatever we talk about here stays here. Obviously, with if you want to hurt yourself, you want to hurt someone else, and all this time they're working with you and they're trusting you, and they know that everything we say, is going to stay here. And sometimes they share something where you feel like, this is something where I have to now, break confidentiality, whether tell the parents or, they have to go to the hospital, something like that.
Yeah.
And then they feel like, 1 second, but I trusted you.
Yeah.
It took me so much courage to share my deepest, darkest secrets and the things that I think about. And now this is what you're doing.
Yeah. That's super challenging. I think you're talking about a situation where it's really unsafe, right? They want to kill themselves.
Yeah.
Something really scary like that, right? And yeah, absolutely, we have to break confidentiality. But you didn't do something that's not trusting if you were very open with them in the beginning, right? Meaning you told them, if you tell me something like that, I'm going to have to disclose it, right? Now, you're trustworthy as an individual, but you're also really hurting your client by trying to save their life. You're also hurting them at the same time. So it doesn't make you untrustworthy. It makes you somebody who's hurting them.
Right. I'm saying the way they perceive it is, how can I trust you? It was interesting. There was also a video actually going around of a girl in a psych ward. I don't know if she got a phone, but she's filming herself in a psych ward saying, here I am in a psych ward after telling my therapist, after my therapist said I can trust her, so I told her how I really feel, and look where I ended up.
Yeah. That's so sad, really. It's really a hard topic, that topic. So again, I try to be super clear that I will have to send you to a hospital if that's what's going on.
Yeah.
And you're going to hate me for that.
Right.
But you know what? You can tell me how much you hate me.
Yeah.
That's why this relationship is different. Because when you tell me how much you hate me, I don't hate on you back. I work through whatever's coming up for me, whether it's in my therapy, in my supervision, whatever's going on, right? Or nothing's coming up for me and I'm okay. Because I've seen this a million times before.
Yeah.
Right? And you can hate on me and I will hold that hate so that we can process and have a corrective experience where I'm going to earn it back and we're going to be okay and we're going to go through this. Because if I could do that for them, then they can have relationships in the world. In
the beginning of this podcast, you were talking about, as a therapist, we're going to try our best to do the best that we can. But in the end of the day, we're humans. And sometimes we might make a mistake. And going back to what we're talking about now, where sometimes that trust for the client can feel like, I've built it up so high and then you broke it. I thought I can tell you, and now you're sending me to the hospital, or now you're telling my parents. It's going to take some rebuilding. And also it's a great model to also show this is something that you can do in your life, rupture and repair. And of course, we never want to do that. But when it comes to safety, where this is something that we have to do, I agree with you that sometimes it's being able to kind of work through that. And even if you tell me how upset and angry you are, I will never take that out on you.
Yeah, and I might. I'm not planning to.
Right.
Maybe something will get a hold of me. I get overwhelmed and I'll lash back. Maybe that might happen because again, I'm human. It doesn't usually happen, but it might. But you know what's going to happen next? We're going to work that through.
Yeah.
I'm going to own that. I'm going to say, you didn't deserve that. That was me. And let's repair this. And I hope you'll give me that opportunity.
And I think there's something so powerful for them to be able to see a therapist can say that. Because when you started the podcast, you said they're coming in, they feel like it's almost like one-upsmanship. That here's the therapist and here's the client, but in reality, it's like, no, that's not at all.
Yeah.
We're here together in the same space, you and I.
That took me so much time. I was saying before how even as a therapist, like I've evolved, right? Because I could talk like this now. There's no way I could speak like this years ago, right? And I had professors even who were speaking this way, like just be yourself and be human and connect to your clients. And I'm looking at them like, what are you guys talking about, right? And now I so appreciate it that I had those messages. It almost gave me permission to evolve into this, right? Because if I would tell my students, yeah, just be yourself, like just be you and just connect, they're going to panic because they don't know who they are as an individual necessarily. If they, I don't know what their therapy journey has been like.
There's also imposter syndrome.
And and as a therapist, like I have to be smart and I have to help the client, and the client has to go away feeling, like they got something. But for me, the client has to go away feeling that I cared and I care about them. Everything else will follow. If they don't feel that, then they're not gonna take, right?
Yeah.
And how do I show them that they care? It's not by saying I care about you. I care about you. I'm telling you, I really do care. This is how much I care. It's those words that are just not going to do it because, first of all, their alarm bells are going off. Why is he saying that so much? Like, what's up here, right?
Right.
It's really just a sense in the body, somatically. Like, I land here. I feel like I'm coming into myself. You can't put words to that experience. That's amazing. How do I create that? Honestly, Avi, I don't know if I know. I really don't. I don't know. I just try to be true to myself. I try to be regulating as a person. They're co-regulating with me. I really embrace them with my full heart.
Wow.
And then it happens. It's magic. I can't describe it.
It's really magic. I agree with you.
Yeah.
So this has been such a treat to be able to hear your journey. I think that word is the buzzword of
journey.
today's.
That's it. And I hate it also because like it's here we go, the therapist with their journeys. It's like that word. It's like almost like some people like they don't take responsibility for anything. I'm just on my journey. Like so I hurt you, but so what? Like I'm on my journey. Just like accept that I'm on my journey. It's like no. I'm on a journey, but like we gotta be like appropriate and respectful.
So we did have a lot of therapy talk during this podcast. So now is it okay if we see the human side of Shaya?
Yeah,
or should I say Professor Shaya?
Oh, no.
Okay.
It's going to be doctor soon, by the way.
Oh, is it really?
A few
Look
years
at
from
that.
now.
Okay.
I hope so.
When that happens, you're coming back. We're doing a round 2,
Let's
or
go.
hopefully sooner than that.
Let's go.
All right. So I throw the ball to you. You catch the ball wherever your thumb lands on. That's the question you read, if you're comfortable with it, of course. Ready?
Yeah.
Here we go.
Which thumb?
Any thumb.
Ooh. Playtherapysupply.com, your choice. What does that mean, my choice?
I guess choose anyone.
Choose anyone.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll give you 5 seconds. Ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Give an example of an unrealistic goal. To be resolved. Completely resolved. Unrealistic.
Drop the mic.
Yeah.
Look at that.
And we all want that, right? And we could be more resolved. But we all want to be fully resolved. Like, now I could accept myself, Like, I don't get triggered. I love that. I never get triggered. I want to never get triggered. I want to never be anxious. I want to never have pain in a relationship. I want none of that. And then I'll be okay. No. We're going to embrace that we are going to be triggered. We are going to have pain in relationships. And we're going to be okay. Pain is something we try so hard to avoid. It actually helps us feel happy if we can embrace pain. We think that we're going to be happy if we don't have pain. So we got to be resolved. I'm going to be like that guy. I'm going to be like the therapist because they're so perfect. The therapist has their own issues. And they embrace pain in their life, hopefully. So we're not going to be fully resolved.
This is amazing. So any last words for our listeners that you can share?
Yeah. First of all, I'm sorry that I'm under the weather.
I hope you feel better.
Don't be like me and work this hard. Okay? That's number one. Last words for listeners is like this. I hope somebody listening to this has a newfound respect for their own humanity, where they say, I struggle with this and that and that and that. I'm hearing that maybe that's okay. And maybe I could be okay with myself and hopefully even get help for myself, where I could just lean into myself and learn how to be okay with who I am. Because having a new version of yourself that the world, quote unquote, you think the world is going to accept is so depressing. Because you're not being you. You're being a version of you that you think the world needs you to be. You just need to be you. And surround yourself with people who can accept you for you. That doesn't mean there are times that they are not happy with you. Of course there are times they're not happy with you. There are times people aren't happy with me all the time, right? But that's okay. We can negotiate and navigate that because they're okay with me as a person if I'm being authentic and true to myself. And I think that's what connects us. Avi, if I showed you a perfect person with a perfect house, a perfect family, and they love thinking we're like that. You know what comes up for me? Whoa, I don't want to be associated with it. I can't relate to it, right? It's just like everything's just working out. Everything's just so perfect. You know what I'm talking about? It's like their plates are perfect. Everything's set perfect. The house is perfect. There's no fingerprints anywhere. It's like, I want to get out of here, right? Because I'm just not comfortable there, right? Because we all share the same human experience, which is we're not perfect. We're just not. And we're attracted, actually, to imperfection. At the same time, we're trying to push away our own imperfection, right? Isn't that interesting? We want others to be as imperfect as we are, and that's who we want to hang out with. But when it comes to us, it's like, oh, no.
Right.
Look at this perfect version of me, which actually turns people off.
100%.
It's so interesting, right? So hopefully we can embrace our imperfection.
And that's why, vulnerability makes connection with people.
Yeah.
Because when we show our imperfections, that's what makes us human.
That's right.
Thank you so much for coming down today. And I also want to share with our listeners, for those who don't know, I hope can I share?
What is this
about the special news coming out very soon? Shaya is also an incredible singer, right? You used to sing for
sing weddings and stuff.
Do you still, if someone calls you and asks you to sing, would you do it?
I probably would because I miss it so much. You know, it's been a few months actually, many months since I sang last.
All right.
So I work at night and whatever. It's very busy, but I'm like craving it. So there's something big coming.
So we're definitely gonna look forward to that. Yeah. And also, you're releasing a song.
Yeah.
What is the name of the song? How can people listen to it?
Okay, so it's not yet
official out there.
Okay. So this is breaking news.
Okay.
You got to tune into Avi's podcast because he's always going to break some good news. Really, no one knows about this. Not even my parents.
Oh wow! Yeah. Oh my gosh!
It's that big.
I feel so honored.
Yeah, like I have this like craving to just do more, pump more out there in terms of healing. And as the Jewish nation, we're going through so much pain right now. And there's a limit to how many people I can help in my office, right? So we do the quick Q&As, but like I feel like music is so much a part of me that I haven't utilized it enough in the healing type space. So I'm putting out a song that's not an original, but there's an original piece to it that's gonna, I hope, bring a lot of healing during this very challenging time.
So how would one want to hear it?
I don't know yet.
You don't know yet. Okay. So everybody, what do you have a website? How can people?
So the website's not up yet, but it's going to be hipcounseling.com, HIP.
All right.
Instagram, and it's going to be probably on these platforms, where you get Jewish music.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for coming. I hope you get better, feel good, and it's been such an honor,
such a pleasure
to listen to your wisdom.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. All right.